Welcome to the C-Suite podcast with me, Russell Goldsmith, and Graham Barrett. We are here at Money20 Las Vegas.
We're recording the show in partnership with LSEG Risk Intelligence, who provide a range of solutions to help organizations effectively navigate risks and reduce fraud.
We really hope that you enjoy these conversations with some of the attendees and speakers from the event.
Joining me now is Dal Sahota, who is Director of Trusted Payments at LSEG Risk Intelligence. Dal, how are you doing today?
I am doing splendid. Really good to be here in Las Vegas and back at Money20.
Yeah, it's really exciting, isn't it? I mean, there's a real buzz around the hall today, you know, on the proper day one, I guess. Now, talk to me a little bit about global payment fraud, because, you know, as we read about, as we hear about, it's on the rise. So what needs to change, I guess?
So I think authorised push payment fraud continues to rise, and in the bank rails where essentially domestically payments are getting faster, cross-border payments are getting faster, and I think there's a bit of a aspect of fraud is getting faster. And in that respect, I think the benefits of faster payments and the downside of payments and faster payments, principally the fraudsters are getting more sophisticated. And I think in terms of the game changes required, one of the aspects that we're doing and is happening at a national level is at the point of a payment being initiated, you should have the certainty that you are paying the right person to the right account and not the bad actor.
Yep. And I think you told me when we first spoke about this that some crazy stat like only 1% of these criminals are actually caught. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's broadly the metric in the market.
But a tiny minority, essentially. Yeah.
It is, and I think this spans not just fraud; it spans financial crime compliance as well. So, and money laundering, fraud. You know, 1% of criminality gets captured in global markets. And ultimately, I think this is an aspect of what all the participants in industry are really trying to solve for, inclusive of ourselves. And I think we're not. I think the aspect of criminality is at such large scale, and we're not talking about the sort of average Joe and Jane created criminality. We're talking like large scale gangs,
sophisticated stuff.
Absolutely, sort of widespread, operating at scale, and getting sophisticated by the day.
Yeah. Well, listen, a lot of you walk around Money20, a lot of the booths here are all about quicker, easier payments, which is great. That's what we all want. We all want that convenience. But should we be wary of making payments too simple, I guess?
I do agree with that, and I think there's an element of people talk about frictionless payments, and I actually think there is a need for friction, and there needs to be more positive friction rather than negative friction.
Okay.
So positive friction being that a lot of these scams that operated, they happen in an environment, and what they're trying to do, the scammers, is to create an environment of duress, an element of pressure. So really putting the victim or the targeted victim under a level of stress. Right. Now, if payments happen super quick and the entire process is seamless and frictionless, it doesn't really take a sort of a stopgap approach to calming things down in the process to make sure the right checks are being done at the right time, at the right place, to really ensure when a payment is made on a bank rail, it's made with a level of certainty, a level of confidence, an element of finality that the payment is going to reach the intended destination. The intended party is not a bad actor, and that's a good outcome. And a little bit of friction to achieve that is not going to cause mass harm. It's actually going to cause more greatness than bad.
Yeah, so it's very easy to forget the victims in all of this as well, isn't it?
It is really, and I think in the last month or so, this is a bit more appreciation, certainly from my perspective, that's really come to light. So at our Partners Day, we had the Tinder swindler join us, and she spoke about her story and particularly how a romance scam that she was victim to affected her life. Right. And the human element to it really brought it home. So even at a legislative level, she racked up sort of over $250,000 worth of liabilities against banks and loans, and therefore she, as a victim of fraud, was treated as a criminal in that scenario, which is really detrimental in society and not the way that victims should be treated. And I think it really brought it life, certainly to me, in the design thinking of the products and services that we create. How it's quite easy to think about technology, data, regulation, but all in the midst of that, never losing sight of the victim and the broader cause to protect the victim and make them feel safe in broader ecosystems and financial systems across the globe.
Yeah, I really like that. There's a different way to look at it. I mean, it's quite an obvious way to look at it if you think about it, but as you say, the focus is quite often on technology and this large-scale fraud, but very easy to forget the victims. You're quite right. Now, let's move the conversation to LSEG Risk Intelligence then, and tell me a little bit more about what you guys are doing to help organisations effectively navigate risk, reduce fraud, all those kind of things.
So we think about it in terms of a life cycle.
Okay.
So from the beginning, when a customer is being onboarded, to them being risk assessed throughout their lifetime and their journey across an enterprise, across a workflow, and equally at the point of transaction. So ready to onboard, ready to risk assess, and ready to pay. Right. We sit across that entire value chain with our products and services and our data.
Okay, awesome. And I guess it's similar to what you're just telling me about the Tinder swindler in terms of getting that immediate kind of feedback and listening. What are your customers telling you? What do they need in this marketplace, and how do they need your help?
So principally, one of the loudest aspects of the voice of customer that's come out loud and clear has been global account verification. Right. So we've been in the marketplace providing US account verification, and the need is for global account verification. So domestically, but also internationally in cross-border payments, cross-border channels, having that certainty, the verification of who you're paying at the point of when the payment is initiated, not after the payment's initiated. Because often it's too late,
big difference,
and if it's too late, the money's already gone, and the money very rarely gets back to the victim.
It's an absolute minefield, isn't it, really? And as you said earlier, I mean, tackling this on a global scale really is going to take some game changers, some serious thought. But listen, I really appreciate your insights here. Sahota, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks very much for having me. Cheers.
So I am now joined by Kim Kacal, Accenture's North American Payments Lead. Kim, thank you so much for taking some time to speak with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Excellent. I want to start with the pace of technology and innovation in the payments industry, because it seems to be accelerating every year. What are some of the biggest trends and challenges that your clients are facing?
We are hearing from the vast majority of our clients that the pace is speeding up every year, and there are always new things to work into their prioritization. And that rapidly accelerating pace is very much changing their roadmaps. One of the things that we're talking about significantly this year is digital wallet. When we did research in 2022, about 55% of consumers were using digital wallet actively. This year, when we repeated that, we're at like 85%. And so, huge increase.
Yeah, massive.
And you take the fact that that's already increasing to the new news that Apple's going to open up near-field communication so that others can use that technology and tap into the technology that powers Apple Pay and Google Pay. And, it opens the door for us to have conversations with banks about, okay, are you going to use a wallet that's out there, or are you going to develop something proprietary so that you can provide a better overall experience to your client and keep that client in-house with you? So we're seeing a lot of conversation in that space.
Then what about on the commercial side of the industry? What's the technology trend that you're specifically seeing there?
The one thing there that I think is really, really hot right now is that when you think about commercial credit card, we see a tremendous move toward virtual cards. So instead of issuing plastic and just having it out there forever, a little bit more sustainable, a little bit more controllable when you go with a single-use virtual card. It allows companies to control their spend. It allows people to maybe restrict the use of that virtual card to specific suppliers, put limits that are appropriate, and it's really giving them more control. We're also seeing people start to embed those virtual cards into their supply systems so that they can pay their suppliers faster with fit-for-purpose, single-use virtual cards.
Okay. One of the topics that we're focusing on in these interviews is fraud. Global payment fraud is on the rise. What concerns you the most, and how are you addressing that threat at Accenture?
So one of the things that I would say this year is really newly important on our radar is the rise of a deep fake. Okay. And the fact that we have more and more bad actors out there who are using Gen AI to help generate either voice simulations or even video simulations that could very quickly move money in a fraudulent manner. And when we think about that trend and the fact that that risk is growing, one of the things that we feel strongly about is part of the key to that is education and helping corporations understand what that really looks like. Recently, Accenture announced an investment in Reality Defender, who does a really nice job of getting out there and identifying those items and helping prevent them and identify them in situations like financial crime and payments.
The topic that you're talking there, deepfake, I was recording a podcast just a couple of weeks ago, and we did the edit and we sent it back to the client, and they said, I meant to say something else. Can't you just quickly make me say something? But that it's easy to do. That's the thing. And so
it's not hard at all.
The worry is that's just on a podcast, but in the finance industry, it must be so scary for you.
You know, how many times have you read the news article that said this person in operations got a call from who they thought was the CEO that said, move this money. And if you're not thinking about, would that person really call me and ask me to do that? And double check those things, that transaction, which could be millions of dollars, is out the door before you even realize it.
Very, very concerning. Well, look, on the topic of AI as well, let's move on to that disruptive potential for AI. How do you see AI changing the landscape for global payments?
You know, when I think about payments, I think about it from a couple of different ways. First and foremost, the ability to use AI to analyze what customers are doing lets us personalize their experience, right? And help them, if you know that this particular client, based on everything they've been doing, defaults to a certain mechanism of payment, you can tailor their experience with your sites accordingly, right? So personalization is really big. But if I go behind the scenes in a bank, I look at some of the things that you can automate using AI and really streamline and make your company more effective. We're seeing efficiency gains in lots of places as it pertains to payments, and that's a really exciting one.
Well, look, it's a good place to leave it. We always love having someone from Accenture on our podcast. So, Kim, Kacal, thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate it. Have a good day.
Okay, joining me now is Michael Kaplan. He is the EVP and Chief Revenue Officer at PayNearMe. Michael, how are you doing today?
Good, Graham. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing really well, thanks. So tell me a little bit more about PayNearMe and your role within the company.
Sure. So we're in the payments experience management business. And so we've built a modern payments platform that manages the end-to-end payment experience for our clients and their customers. And so what that looks like is customers interfacing with software that we provide and allows them to make payments to businesses that we serve. And then all the way through to and including all of the tools necessary for that business to manage their payment infrastructure. And we do that across all of the sort of traditional tender types that you'd be used to seeing people pay with, consumers pay with. So card payments and ACH payments, as well as a host of alternative payments like PayPal, Venmo, Cash at Retail, which is something we're really well known for, Cash App, Apple Pay, Google Pay, and then we do that across all of the sort of different channels that a consumer would pay. So mobile, web, IVR. And then we do that in two distinct markets. One is in what we broadly call bill pay, which is essentially any business that is sending invoices out to consumers. We sort of lump that into bill pay. We're one of the leading providers in particularly in the lending market. So auto lending and personal lending, where billers need to collect from customers. Property management is a big market for us, and an emerging market for us is tolling, so collecting on tolling invoices. And then the other big sort of broad space we play in is the online sports betting and iGaming market in the US. And so we do a host of different payment services for those companies. And our ultimate goal is sort of to make it easy for our clients to get paid from their customers, lower their total cost of acceptance, and really solve their sort of biggest payment problems. So that's what we do. And I am the Chief Revenue Officer, which is a fancy way of saying I run sales.
Sounds good to me. Now we're here at Money 2020, obviously having this conversation. What trends are you seeing here at the event, and I guess more widely in the payments industry?
Yeah, I think they'll take my badge away if I don't say AI, so I think they revoke it immediately. But I think that the big trend that we're seeing, and something that's really important to us, is all around data. It's how do we sort of firmly believe in the democratization of data, making data available to our customers so that they can leverage it in ways that it ultimately provide for a better solution. So really data, AI, and as an organization, that's sort of the thing we're most excited about, is we're really focused on how do you leverage data to lower the total cost of accepting payments. And when I say that, I don't mean the actual lowering the cost of the transaction itself. It's really around how do you sort of lower the overall cost of acceptance, right? Because processing the transaction is simple when it goes right. It's when it goes wrong, it's the exceptions that really drive up the total cost of acceptance. And so we're really focused on how do you use data and AI where appropriate to drive what we call the optimal payment mix, which would be the right customers paying with the right payment type for them that drives the fewest exceptions for billers, and that's how we sort of think about the sort of total cost of acceptance. And so big trend for us and things that we're looking at here at Money 2020 is really around data, AI, ML, and how that can be leveraged to sort of drive the right balance for our clients as it relates to taking payments from their customers.
Now, something we're keen to get all our guests' opinions on is global payment fraud. Obviously, that's on the rise.
Yeah, sure.
How do you address that at PayNearMe? What steps do you think we can take to mitigate those risks?
Yeah, it's interesting. And in our world, and I had mentioned earlier, there's sort of two areas of our business. One is bill payment, and the other one is on the gaming side. And the fraud risks in those two businesses are actually quite different. And in the bill pay side, sort of what people think of as traditional fraud is not that prevalent. Like, so, using stolen cards or account takeovers are sort of uncommon in bill pay because you're paying a bill, right? And so that's not generally the type of fraud we see there. We see a lot more friendly fraud where somebody's trying to defraud their lender to get the title out of the car and things of that nature, title for their car and things of that nature. So we have things within our platform that we do, what we call business rules, that sort of help to identify those sort of trends, and that's so that's on that piece of it. On the gaming side, we see a lot more of the traditional fraud, account takeover, stolen cards, and what we've done there is we've actually partnered with, we are partnered with the likes of, we announced a partnership earlier with this year with Certify, and so we've added functionality from sort of best-in-class players out there. We use GuiAct as well. So there's a bunch of fraud tools that we've integrated into our platform, and then that have been built on top of some of the business rules we use. So that's really how we focus and think about it within PayNearMe.
Interesting, yeah. Let's finish off with some PayNearMe news, because I understand you've recently expanded your collaboration with PayPal. What does that relationship look like now? What does it mean for your customers?
Yeah, well, in our business, the businesses we serve, and in actually probably most businesses, payments is the lifeline of any of those businesses. If you're a lender and you don't get paid, you're out of business, right? And so really our focus in deepening our collaboration, and we've built a lot of technology around this, is really about sort of reliability and dependability. And so we built technology called Smart Switch that allows us to dynamically route traffic between back-end processors. And the deepened collaboration with PayPal allowed us to plug in, their sort of best-in-class payment processing platform at Braintree. And that was sort of that's where the sort of collaboration comes in. It allows us to really sort of provide more dependability and reliability, and enhances our Smart Switch technology. In 2022, we actually announced that we added PayPal and Venmo as a payment option and to the platform, and then we sort of followed on with this additional collaboration. And then we're looking at other functionality that might be interesting to add in from the PayPal stack, and we sort of really believe in partnering with sort of the best in class to sort of enhance our platform. And so and so through the collaboration, we can bring sort of the best of PayPal services through a single integration into a market that PayPal hasn't traditionally serviced. And so that's what we're doing together.
Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah. Well, listen, we wish you all the best with that.
Okay.
Hope you enjoy the rest of your time at Money2020. Michael Kaplan, thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate the time.
So I am now joined by Anusha Ramanujam, the Global Head of Payment, Partnerships and Product Enablement at Square. And I have to say, it's a welcome back to the show.
Thank
Anusha,
you. It's great to be back.
Yeah, we spoke a couple of years ago. So
we did.
Thank you so much for taking some more time to chat to us again. Now, you've actually just come off stage, literally kind of just over there at the event. You were involved in a discussion about the global tap to pay revolution. So let's just delve into that a little bit. Why is tap to pay particularly beneficial for end customers, and how does it reduce friction in commerce?
So I'll start with Square's mission. It's rooted in economic empowerment. So we really wanted to focus on giving our sellers a free option to get started and take secure contactless payments. Now in the US, before the pandemic, like up until 2019, US still lagged the rest of the markets in terms of contactless adoption. We had our Square Reader, which accepts only chip and contactless transactions. So at the beginning of January 2020, the share of contactless transactions was about 9%. That went up to 50% by the end of December 2022, which is when we started rolling out the technology for accepting payments on something that the sellers already have, which is their phone. So why is it so important? Because anything that personalizes the payment experience and anything that removes the friction out of the payment experience resonates really well with consumers and our merchants. So that's why Tap to Pay on iPhone and Android has really, really taken off. I can list out so many amazing examples of our sellers. I was just talking about one of our sellers at Square, Dariana Bridal and Tuxedo. So think about it, a bride and a groom, they're going and shopping for their wedding. It's a very personalized, intimate experience. And then just like the experience helped by the associates is great, the checkout, the payment experience is right there. They can just sit there, they're sipping on their champagne, model their outfits, it looks great, and they can pay it right then and there by tapping their card or their mobile wallet onto the store's phone. So why is it so great? It's beautiful, it's easy to get started, it's a free option for sellers with something that they have, it's secure, it's utilizing all of the security standards and the end-to-end encryption of all the to take care of all of the payment credentials that are presented, and it makes life really easy. So whether you're in France and Ireland using a car service, you can accept payments on your phone. You're a hairstylist, whether you're taking an in-home appointment or at your salon, check the customer out right from their chair. I do that with my esthetician, I do that with my hairstylist, I can make my appointment right there. It's just perfect, so It's lovely.
There's some good examples there that you just gave. What else is Square doing to improve payment security and combat fraud then?
Russell, in this very fragmented world of payments and commerce, combating fraud it takes a team. It takes a team of all of the industry stakeholders. So we're partnering with the networks, the acquirers, the issuers to look at fraud. And there's different ways of fraud. Tap to pay has really helped, again, with the prevalence of contactless payments. In-person payments are great, they're secure. But more and more of the fraud has moved to e-commerce and card not present. So whether it's friendly fraud or potentially collusive or non-bona fide activity, using technology like 3D Secure, strong customer authentication, not only to combat fraud, but also to minimize the decline of legitimate transactions, that's what we're investing in, and we're doing that with all of our industry partners and stakeholders.
Now, another topic that we've been focusing on here is AI. It's a big topic, obviously, as you would expect at a conference like this. How are Square incorporating AI into the work that you do?
So we believe that AI fundamentally has the ability to change and reshape the future of commerce. And we want to make sure that millions of our sellers, small, medium, and large, have the ability to take advantage of the tools organically incorporated into the tools that they use with Square already. Now, if you think about next-gen, groundbreaking Gen AI commerce experiences, maybe that's still a little bit further away. But at Square, we have been incorporating AI into the tools that the sellers use all the time. I'll give you a couple examples. Whether you're a seller and you're crafting marketing announcements, or you're crafting team and staff announcements, or guess what? You're setting up your inventory and you're using AI to generate custom descriptions. All of that is done in a way that is organic. It's on the tools that they're already relying on. That's for the sellers. And then even internally at Square, we're utilizing for our customer service advocates, so they can use conversational AI tools. So when a customer calls in, the merchant calls in to help troubleshoot their issue, it's going to bring up in context relevant information right there so that they can immediately help troubleshoot that issue.
How difficult is it to keep up with the pace of development of AI?
I mean, it's, like payments and anything that is going to help improve the concept of payments is going to be, you have to keep up and continue to innovate. But then as long as you're innovating with frictionless experiences, making life easy so that sellers can focus on what they do, which is start, run, and grow their business, that's what makes us passionate. That's what keeps us going. So it's not easy, but it's something that we're constantly investing in and turning out for our sellers.
Yeah. Now, you talked about innovation there. Are there any other innovations and trends that you're spotting at the moment?
I mean, we're talking about payments, Russell.
Okay.
Like, payments is dynamic, it's magnetic, it's ever-changing. Now, if you want to be a forever student, you need to be in payments, so it's constantly changing. One example I'll give you is, overall tech-driven commerce, but kiosks. Kiosks are really cool. I don't know if it's about people don't want to have a conversation, but 3 out of 4 consumers are saying that they would much rather check out at a kiosk rather than check out with a store associate. So we have rolled out that ability for different verticals. And then at Square, we're continuing to invest in banking to make sure that the millions of small businesses who have historically been left out by the traditional financial institutions, we can help continue to offer them, whether it's Square Checking, the debit card, banking, loans, savings, the credit card, all of that. So continue to invest, continue to bring all the cool things about payments. You can tell I'm really passionate about payments.
It certainly brings this joy to your face.
I can talk about payments all day, but you don't have enough time.
Unfortunately not. Well, listen, let's not leave it 2 years for the next catch-up.
Let's not.
But for now, Anusha, Ramanujam, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Russell.
Thank you. So I am joined by Chris LaConte, the Chief Strategy Officer of Self Financial. Chris, thank you so much for joining the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Should we start with a quick intro to Self Financial?
That'd be great, yeah. So Self Financial is a credit building platform based in the U.S. We help U.S. consumers understand credit, build their credit, and ultimately that can be people who are new to credit, so they don't have a credit history yet, or people who have made some mistakes along the way. We were founded about 10 years ago. We've got multiple products that help people build credit, all the way from a traditional credit builder loan to something newer like rent and utility reporting. Because everybody's unique, and so everybody, depending on their financial situation, one product may be better than another for them, or multiple products can help.
Okay. Now on that, different people's situations there, I know one of the areas that you focus on is economic inclusion and financial resilience.
Right.
So why that in particular? Why is that so important to you?
Yeah, if you look at people who suffer from no credit or lower credit, subprime, the world's really expensive, right? There's a saying, it's expensive to be poor. It's true. If you think about the interest rate that they have to pay on an auto loan, it's going to be 10, 20% plus, right? Everything becomes more expensive in your life, especially now. Like, it's a really rough time at a macro level, and not having access to credit, or the credit that you have access to is really expensive, can be really difficult. So by helping people, one, understand credit, it's a big part of what we do.
Yep.
Credit can be pretty complex. Why is my score the way it is? What is utilization? Why is an on-time payment important? Our products are kind of built in a way that help people understand how credit works, at the same time enabling their score to accurately reflect who they are. And that's through some of our credit building products, whereas they make on-time payments, we report those to the bureaus. Your on-time payments is the largest portion of your score. And so helping people understand and see that, potentially seeing their score go up because of that, is really helpful for reinforcing that. And the other thing I'd say on kind of like in this economic environment, thing like rent reporting and utility reporting is really interesting, because it's the opportunity now to build credit without taking on debt. So there's 100 million renters in the US, significant population. About 5% of those people actually report those payments to the credit bureaus. And if you think about a rent payment, it's most likely their largest monthly expense, and they're not getting any credit for paying that on time, right? If you have a mortgage, that's being reported to the bureaus. Your score can go up if you continue to report or to pay your payment on time. With rent, that's never existed. And if you look at the population that are renters, again, a lot of subprime, near prime, or people who are new to credit. And so enabling them to take an expense that they already have and use that as a way to build credit is really helpful and can have a big impact for them.
So is there a concern that it's an increasing part of the market?
Absolutely. If you look at it, I think we just hit in this summer, delinquencies hit a 12-year high.
Okay.
Right? So delinquencies being missed payments, right? Also, balances that are being carried on credit cards, I think, are at a 5-year high, if not higher. And then saving rates are at an all-time low. So it is a pretty dire situation, especially for people who are lower income and subprime. Because again, lower income, and you're generally paying more than most people, especially people with a prime score. I'll give you another example of how expensive it is. There's a study done where they looked at people who have prime credit scores and subprime credit scores, and looked at it through the eyes of what do they pay for their auto insurance. Not many people know, but in 45 out of 50 states, the number 2 reason you pay what you pay for your auto insurance is actually your credit score. And a big portion of that is they're looking at, do you make your payments? Which makes sense. In insurance, everybody's got to pay. Everybody kind of comes out of the same pool. So they did a study and looked at, well, what would be the difference if we had the exact same driver's record? We're basically the same person, same car, same everything. But you have a prime score and I have a subprime score. The person with the subprime score is going to pay double what someone with a prime score does. Yeah. So it is a really difficult situation for
so
people.
Unfair.
It really is. And so we want to do our part by helping people understand, like, we can't change the rules of the game, right? Like, the credit scores are the way they are, lenders use those. We want to do what we can to help people understand how that world works and what they can do to put their best foot forward and give lenders and others a true view into their risk, which is important.
Okay. I want to move on to another topic while we're here at Money 2020. What's been the kind of biggest trend that you've seen walking around the halls and listening to the talks? Yeah,
I think this is like my 13th or 14th Money 2020. So we've gone through the evolutions of, like, a couple years ago was crypto, right? This year seems to be AI. You know, I kind of feel like I'm seeing some of the same banners with the same products that now say AI on them. But the reality is it's becoming, with LLMs and the kind of evolution and how fast things have been happening, a lot of companies are starting to really put that in. We're starting to see some early results for that. Ourselves, we use LLMs on our rent reporting. So we can look at a bank transaction report, and we use LLMs to look through that and say, well, what's a rent payment versus a non-rent payment, and do that much more efficiently than we could before. I think an interesting part of AI, kind of the future, on it would be personalization, especially when we think about credit. Everybody that's here literally has a different credit profile, right? We've all made different on-time payments. We all have higher utilization, lower utilization, right? There's all these mixes. What may be good for you to kind of improve your credit and me are going to be completely different things, even in the order of which we do it. So I think there's a lot of opportunity with AI to help someone understand like the path, right? Like how do I go from, my goal is to buy a car. Like we have a lot of aspirational customers, right? I want to buy a home. I want to buy a car. I want to get an unsecured credit card, right? All these things that make my life easier. And being able to use AI to say, okay, to get that, here's the 10 things you need to do, personalized to the individual level, would be super powerful.
I think we could do a whole podcast on that.
I know. Let's do it.
We're going to have to stop for now.
Yeah.
Listen, Chris LaConte, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you again for having me.
Pleasure.
Really hope you've enjoyed these conversations from this year's Money 2020 at the Venetian here in Las Vegas.
Thanks once again to our partners, LSEG Risk Intelligence. If you've enjoyed the show, please do give us a positive rating and review. But for now, from me, Russell Goldsmith and Graham Barrett, goodbye.